Episode 57, How to Handle a Negative Review. Hello and welcome to the Gayla Scrivener Show. I'm glad you're here. You're in the right place if you're looking for ideas and inspiration to start and grow your own business, your own freedom business. Now, my definition of a freedom business is a business where I can work and live from practically anywhere. I love my work from anywhere lifestyle. But for you, creating freedom in your life may mean something a little bit different. Breaking away from the 9-to-5 grind for me and having the freedom to work from practically anywhere is a cool feeling. But here's the thing though, it doesn't happen overnight and it doesn't happen without work. But all the time and effort and the learning and the stretching is so worth it. And that's why I have this podcast. Every week in this podcast, I'm sharing my experiences that I've had in growing my business and achieving a work from anywhere lifestyle. You too can experience wonderful adventure and freedom as you live life on your own terms. Now, today's episode is about negative reviews. And I recorded the bulk of this podcast on a different system and it sounds a little bit different, but I was also in a storm. We were having tornado warnings and everything. And I ended up making this one short and sweet. It was something that was on my mind. I'm going to go right into that piece of the podcast. Well, in today's episode, I wanted to talk about overcoming customer disappointment. And first, I thought I'd talk about reviews. You know, reviews on Google or Facebook, or if you're an author, the reviews on Amazon have become super important. They are the testimonials from the masses of what people think about you and your services. And it helps shape buying patterns. And you're hoping to get good reviews so that you can have more customers. And if you have numerous 5-star reviews with favorable comments, wonderful. But then what happens if you have a disappointed or an angry customer that says hurtful things? And it seems like more times than not that the negative comments are come out because when you're angered, you want to say something, so you might do a comment. Where if you're satisfied with something, you're satisfied. You're not as driven to give a favorable comment or a favorable review, even though you may have good intentions to do so. When a customer comes out and says something hurtful or angry on a review, how does that make you feel? Hopefully it hasn't happened to you, but it may have. It is crushing. Just imagine. You feel like you've done a great job, but the customer didn't like what you did. Sometimes the customer was very difficult to work with, and you tried to appease them anyway, but just the relationship just broke down, and it's so unfortunate. So sometime or another, there will be a time that you may be faced with a negative review. It's not that you get a negative review because it's bound to happen, but it's the manner and the professionalism in which you respond that makes a difference. So I'm going to go over 3 main points that are good when encountered with a negative review. First, take a deep breath. Just take a moment. You are so close to the situation. You have that first raw emotion when you read a negative review. So take a deep breath. Step away. Take a moment. Because my number 2 point is you don't want to be too quick to respond, but you don't want to wait too long either. You need to settle down your emotions and think before you respond. That's why I'm telling you in the first step, take a deep breath, take a moment, process it. Don't respond immediately because you're going to be responding in this state of emotion that's frantic and you don't want that. But don't ignore it either. Don't wait 2 or 3 or 4 weeks to respond to a negative response. I like to think within 24 hours is best. Sometimes you might want to sleep on the response because instead of you writing the response, consider having a colleague do it. They're not as close to the situation emotionally as you are. So use a colleague as a sounding board. Let them know of the situation. Let them know how you feel. Let them know what transpired that might have had that customer saying the things that they said. Then you can kind of wrap your thoughts around everything. And you may have this colleague, or you may know somebody that's close to you that would be good at writing a calm, cool, and collective response for you to edit, of course. They're level-headed. They don't take the emotion into it. I don't know if I'd say unfortunately or fortunately, but I've had the opportunity to help some of my clients with the occasional negative review that comes in. It, I think I've done 2, maybe 3 out of all my clients, and they've been different clients. And I've had one recently with one of my clients, and it was a difficult situation. And I think that him being able to use me as a sounding board and that he could process what he wanted to say. And after the initial disappointment in the customer verbiage, I mean, constructive criticism is fine, but sometimes hurtfulness, how do you handle that? And that stimulates your own emotions. We talked about it for a little while, and I had a chance to compose a response. And I actually slept on it, and it was a little less than 24 hours before we had decided to respond. Even though that would not have made the customer happy, there was nothing that we could do to turn it around. It was a broken down either communication or personality or something. And sometimes that happens, and it's just unfortunate. But it was the way that the response was there, because I had gotten feedback from other people that had seen that. And it was more important for them to see how the business owner responded and if they retaliated in any way. And that says a lot for a business. So doing those 3 things, take a breath, don't be too quick to respond, but don't wait too long either. And the third, consider having a colleague write the response. Now, if that's not available, write it down before you push send or push publish on anything. Write it down in Word or anything like that and just sleep on it. For a small business, well, for any business, a negative review is like a kick in the stomach. It wasn't even a negative review for me, and it was one of my clients, and I felt affected because I know and work with my clients so well and know their quality of work. As a small business owner, that kick feels so much harder. And we, as small business owners, are trying to gather as many reviews out on the web so that it helps with buying patterns and it helps establish our credibility. So that one negative review, that person's perspective, although we respect that perspective, it just hurts when there's hurtful things that's said in a review, because it could devastate a small business actually. And it takes a little bit of more time to recover from something like that. Overall, you can't control what kind of reviews come in. We have to do the very best we can to not disappoint a client and have positive reviews. But when it's not a matter of if, but when a negative review does come in, handle it with professionalism, because the way that you handle it will say much more than what the negative review would say. Guys, thanks for joining me today. It's truly been an honor, and I just wanted to open up a little bit, kind of casually. I might have been rambling a little bit on this, but it was heavy on my mind, and I'm glad you tuned in this week. And it would be such an honor if you'd subscribe to the podcast. Whether your favorite player is iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Play. It would be great if you'd hit that subscribe button and even leave a comment. I'm glad you're here, and until next week, we'll see you later.